Hey floral friends, Beth here from Como Park Zoo and Conservatory, and I'm so excited to bring to you another great pollination story thanks to the Legacy Amendment. So there are so many awesome pollination stories, and one of my favorites and one of the really cool and beautiful ones is the story of water lilies. And here at Como Park Zoo and Conservatory, outside our visitor center, we have some absolutely beautiful examples of these amazing aquatic plants. You can see a whole rainbow of colors, different shapes and structures, leaves with different colors, and a really dynamic pollination story. And we're going to be exploring one very, very extreme version of this today from one of our very special plant residents. Let's take a look. To share this amazing pollination story, I brought along a special friend, horticulturist Victoria, who's going to tell us an amazing story about the pollination of not just our water lilies in general, but one really special species. Now, Victoria, thank you so much for joining us. I know you take excellent care, and you've raised these amazing plants from their babyhood, from their tiny little leaves, all the way up to their adolescence when they got to move out here into the water gardens, and now they're blooming into beautiful adulthood. So would you like to share a little bit about your amazing charges here?
I would love to. So very exciting. My Victoria Juniors have now grown up. They're getting quite big. I'm very happy about it. And they have one of the most interesting pollination stories of these plants. So water lilies, and this is going to get pretty nerdy because one of my degrees is actually in history, but these are some of the earliest flowering plants to evolve. So they have a very similar and very interesting pollination mechanism. So when we talk about some of these other ones, you'll see the similarities, but Victoria here likes to make everything a little extra. So her story is just really fun. These flowers bloom at night only, and they bloom 3 nights in a row. Each flower opens at night, closes up, opens again. That's really cool on its own. But what happens is the flower changes every night. So if you come 3 nights in a row, that same flower will look different every single night. So right now you can see a beautiful flower bud covered in spikes. Classic Victoria, everything is spiky. You don't want to touch that. But when it opens, either tonight, maybe tomorrow night, it will be a beautiful white flower. It will be huge. And it will have this beautiful aroma. I think it smells sort of like pineapple, but everyone has a little different opinion on it. So definitely come here by night sometime and see what you think. But that first night that it opens, it will be female. It will be a female flower. And it will have this little cup of liquid in the middle that it generated itself. And it actually heats itself up. It is called thermogenesis. So this flower generates its own heat. It will be warmer than the air around it. That helps the aroma get going, and it attracts its favorite pollinators, which are beetles. So those beetles will come find this nice warm place to stay. It's got this liquid in the middle that gets them kind of a little sort of drunk. It's kind of sugary. They get really into it. They sort of have a lot of fun and don't realize that the flower is closing up on them. So this is a pollination method called entrapment. So the bud closes up for the daytime. Those beetles are in there kind of maybe having a little bit of a hangover, eating a little bit, kind of rolling around, having a good time. The second night that flower opens, it will not be white anymore. It will be bright pink, and it will be male, no longer female. So those beetles crawl up the male parts of the flower, get them covered in pollen, and they zoom off on their way to visit another flower. So the fact that this flower changes gender from night to night enables it to only get pollen from other plants. It won't self-pollinate, which means it has greater genetic diversity, which means that it can evolve and change as it needs to much better, which is a really cool thing.
That is really, really awesome. And this one is super extra. Victoria is taking it to the next steps all the time, which is pretty cool. Our other lilies, while they might not have quite the same mechanism, are they similar in the way they pollinate?
They're all similar in that whether they're day blooming or night blooming. So a lot of the water lilies surrounding Victoria here are actually day bloomers. Okay. They will do a similar thing where they will open several days in a row. The first day they will be mostly female, and then they close up, and the second day they will be mostly male. They don't change color as dramatically as a Victoria does, and most of them don't really trap their pollinators. The pollinators will come and visit and usually leave, so they won't necessarily be in the flower all day or all night, the way the Victoria has that perfect trap going. But they do a similar thing where they change their male or female to male as they go.
Awesome. Now, are these all reasonably closely related to each other in the branch? Victoria looks so drastically different.
Right. So these are all in the Nymphaea family. They're the same family of plants, but these tropical water lilies are a different genus. So Victoria is the genus for Victorias. These are Nymphaea. So this is Victoria longwood hybrid, and then these are several different Nymphaea cultivars. So it does seem like they should be quite different, but they are actually closely related. And what's really interesting about it too is that we have found fossil records of Victorias that show a very similar mechanism to what they have now. So we can see that they evolved very early on. And it's really interesting that they do this opening and closing and have this Victoria has that thermogenesis, because way back when they first evolved, beetles were the primary pollinator, not bees. And that is more of a tactic to entice beetles than it is for bees, which is why not very many flowers do that.
That is so cool. It's really neat. And they have these, they look so prehistoric with all of their spikes and all of these weird shapes and structures. And that's just such a cool thing, the way they've evolved to have all these amazing shapes and structures to them.
Right.
Now, these plants in this particular water garden, these aren't the kinds that we're ever going to find in our backyard, sadly, out in a pond, are they?
No, they are not. These are all tropical. Big, beautiful tropical flowers. These cannot survive in Minnesota over the winter, not even a little bit. And we're very lucky that we can harvest tubers from these water lilies, the tropical ones, and keep those over winter and then grow them from tubers each year. The Victorias, we do not harvest anything from them. We do not pollinate them ourselves. I mentioned this is the longwood hybrid. A garden, Longwood Gardens, is what created it, and they are so generous in that they do their own pollination and then they give us seeds for free to grow. So really a wonderful place, so generous of them to do that for us. Highly recommend visiting them. They have the most spectacular water gardens on the East Coast, but we do not pollinate these ourselves, and these Victorias are too big to have in the greenhouse over the winter. So all these Victorias are grown from seed every single year.
That's amazing. That's a lot of work. And I know you put a lot of time and effort into making these beautiful plants so healthy and thriving. And I think that's so cool that we have this cooperation with other botanical gardens. And that's what's so amazing about our industry and about our field.
Totally.
We're working in this to try and spread education and spread the welfare and well-being of plants and animals. And that's so cool that we work together. We're all trying to get this, inspire this passion together. And what an inspirational and cool plant. Now, these are really cool, and we mentioned that they're not from around here, but that doesn't mean we don't have beautiful water lilies here as well. So let's go check out some of the native water lilies and talk a little bit about those.
Let's do it.
All right, so now we've moved over here to our cold water, cold hardy plants, and we're going to check out some of them and talk about some of their features and also how we can help water lilies. So what do we have here in this garden, Victoria?
So just about everything that you see in this section is cold hardy, which means that they can survive outside in Minnesota winter, which is very exciting. So if you have any kind of a body of water in your backyard, you could put a water lily in it, one of these, and it would do great. I would be careful, of course, about putting hybrid water lilies into any natural waterway. But we do have some beautiful locals that you can have on your property, and they are really fun and they smell amazing.
So what are these ones that are here with us? These are the native local ones that you could find in the wild.
So, and when I say that these are native local, I'm including this lotus. This is also a native Minnesota plant. It's got a nice dainty yellow bloom right now. But what we're really talking about today is this one. It's having a late morning. It hasn't really woken up quite yet. I sympathize. But when it fully opens later today, this is going to be a beautiful white flower. It is called Nymphaea odorata, And if you think that second part of the name sounds familiar, it is called odorata because it has a really delicious odor. It smells tasty. It smells like a yummy candy. At least I think so. Everyone smells something a little different, but that's my opinion.
Awesome. So like you said, we have some plants here that are beautiful hybrids that if you had more of a contained water body source, even I know here in our gardens we have some beautiful potted water plants,
Yes.
and that's so cool. We get a lot of compliments about those. So great work.
Thank you.
But if I were planting in a native natural body of water, I'd want to maybe plant one of these native plants because invasive species are a huge concern when we talk about our bodies of water, aren't they?
They are. They have been a big problem, and once they're in, they're really hard to get out.
Yeah.
So something nice about water lilies is these are tough plants. If you've ever seen water lilies in a Minnesota lake, you'll know that they themselves can be quite vigorous. So once they're in there, it does help a little bit with preventing invasives from moving in. It just provides a little bit of competition. That doesn't mean that having water lilies will prevent invasives. It doesn't quite work that way, but having a native plant in there to give even a little bit of competition is better than nothing at all.
For sure, and by having a stable ecosystem that's already in place, by not disturbing it too much, we're giving that ecosystem a level of hardiness to resist introduced species, which is really important. Now, our water lilies and native lotus, they're not species of strong conservation concern.
No.
However, I know you've done some amazing work helping out in some areas where bodies of water have been disturbed, and you've been able to help give them that fighting chance by introducing those native species back to an area, which is really cool.
Right. So we did some conservation work where a wetland was restored. It had been turned into a very soggy golf course, and that golf course was then transformed back into a wetland, which means every plant really that would have been in that ecosystem had to be replaced and brought back, restored to that site. And while water lilies themselves are not endangered, especially not Nymphaea odorata, this is a really tough plant, not endangered itself, it does help complete the ecosystem. So this plant provides wonderful habitat for fish. If you're a fisher, you're going to want to see these because they are great for bass, sunfish, other fish have great habitat, and then it provides food for local waterfowl. So it does kind of complete that picture. Every plant has a place in the ecosystem and contributes to the health of that ecosystem. So we restored water lilies to that wetland, and it was about 100 water lilies that Como helped restore. 50 Nymphaea odorata and 50 of our pond lily, which is, if you've seen a little water lily out in the lakes that has a cute little tiny yellow cup-shaped flower.
Buttery cuppy looking thing.
It's so cute.
I do
So
love those.
that is the other one, and we do have one here. It was blooming yesterday, and those flowers are done.
Oh,
I mentioned when we
take a
talked.
break.
Yeah, when they're done blooming, they pull themselves back under the water, which is very tidy, very nice and tidy.
Now, does that help protect it? Just out of curiosity, does that protect it for the seed development from predators eating it, or is it to help
Sort
it germinate?
of. So it's actually after it's been pollinated, and we just talked about the pollination. These lilies are also pollinated in a similar way. They'll open 3 days in a row. I keep mentioning that third day, and I haven't said what happens on it. It's really just a bonus day. Not a lot changes. It just opens again as it's being pulled under the water. But they pull themselves under the water for seed development because then those seeds will sort of disperse in the water current or maybe get eaten by ducks and brought somewhere.
Yeah.
So they want to be in the water for them to develop and then sort of spread out. So it just helps them along that way. These are very aquatic plants, so they need to be in that water.
For sure, that makes a lot of sense. Now, that's awesome. That's amazing work, all the lilies that you were able to put back out there. That's so cool. Giving those ecosystems a fighting chance is really important. By protecting our native flora and our native fauna, it's not just protecting our resources that we get for food or for recreation, but those aquatic ecosystems here in Minnesota, the land of lakes after all, those are really important to our whole ecosystem. It helps with our drainage, it helps with protecting us from flooding and all sorts of other really important things. So helping protect our water resources and the plants that live in them, even if they aren't a species of special conservation concern, is really, really important. So it's so awesome that we're able to help out, and we're able to help not just planting these plants, but also inspiring others to do the same. If you'd like to learn how to help inspire native water plants, check out our website for a list of really cool native water flora that you can find, as well as some cool resources of where else you can explore, including if you'd like to learn more and read some really cool books, a book by Longwood Gardens, Victoria the Seductress.
That's a very spicy title.
It's a very spicy title indeed. If you'd like to learn more about some of our very special plants, and you can help support us and our efforts by coming by to visit us here at Como Park Zoo and Conservatory. These water gardens are available to see at all hours, especially great for those night bloomers.
Oh,
to get
yeah.
a chance to take a peek. But you can also make an advanced reservation online at our website, comozooconservatory.org, so that you can come and check out our greenhouses, you can check out our gardens, and you can check out our zoo. We look forward to seeing you around, and stay tuned for our future episodes. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit about how the nose knows, and how a rose by any other name would smell as sweet, or might smell like meat. So stay tuned. We'll see you there.